Hey, can you hopefully you can see me. I'm so sorry. My mouse died. I've got one of those. I've got a mouse and keyboard combo, and they're supposed to be rechargeable, but for some reason my mouse wouldn't work. So then I had to find my emergency mouse, and then I had to unplug my camera because I needed the port that I could access. It's just been an entire shit show of getting live. And then it wouldn't let me get live. It wouldn't let me connect, wouldn't let me like Rumble kept rejecting me. And I was just like, oh well, this is just water today because we know it's not Christmas anymore. So it's just been a little bit of a shit show. So I do apologize, but we have got a fun show today. Let me just do this. I meant to do this as well, but I was just stressing over not being able to actually get online. Okay, so we are going to be talking all about, we're going to do Greenland. So Greenland PsyOp or Precedence. We're going to talk about some election meddling in the UK. Wolves in reform, and just a little note on that I wasn't going to be covering. Reform have just, because it wasn't on the cards, Reform have just announced that they now have Zawali. He was like the vaccine minister. He is like all in on WEF globalist goals. So that isn't going to do lots for the fan base. Neither is what we're going to talk about in a minute. And then we will finish on decoding silent language, just so that we don't end up all getting confused when we are chatting to people that we know and love. There's been a rapid decline in people's capacity to function. Right, let me just shrink my notes. So I have been, wait a minute. Why do I always lose how to make it shorter without... Life is what they call first world problems, isn't it? I don't know. I just have to squint. It's fine. I'll do it. I can do it. Okay, so we will start with Greenland. Actually, we're going to start with a little bit of history of Greenland. I think before we talk about the Trump's remarks and the whole will he, won't he invade? And I actually investigated whether it's worth putting money on whether he'll invade or not. But if I put a tenner on, I might only get 18 quid back if he does, right? So that's not really worth it. But supposedly there are people out there who are making quite a lot of money off Trump. So, if you haven't got a job, if you haven't got a job and you fancy a bit of day trading, just get the AI to help do a bit of prediction about what Trump will or won't do. I mean, if I could just put a few bets on and make some cash, I'd have done it, but it just seems like way too much effort for me right now. Okay, so we can talk about Greenland. And actually, I was like, okay, well, how does Denmark own Greenland? That's where we need to start, because obviously we got all the pushback from the EU saying, oh, you can't do it, which I mean, I understand. We shouldn't be like just kind of like taking over countries, long gone are the times that people just like deciding this is my country. So I was like, does Denmark actually own Greenland, and how does it start? So it's legally part of the Kingdom of Denmark as an autonomous territory with a unitary constitutional monarchy. So Denmark holds sovereignty over foreign affairs, defence, currency and major international matters, while Greenland has extensive self-government, its own parliament, laws on most internal issues and the right to pursue independence via referendum. I thought that was very interesting. We'll talk about the potential referendum in a bit. Oh, okay, wait a minute. I haven't got a scrolly thing. I have to use me down arrow. So back in 982, right until about the 15th century, Eric the Red, who is a Norse or Icelandic explorer, founded the first European settlements after being exiled from Iceland, and he named it Greenland to attract settlers. And if you've ever watched the show The Vikings, I mean, obviously they did it very differently, but it kind of goes through how they were expanding and stuff like that. that. But yeah, so it's a whole joke, isn't it? Because there is no Greenland, right? So it was potentially the world's first and best marketer, naming naming Greenland. So there were two main settlements in the east and the west, grew to around between 2,000 to 6,000 people, with farms, churches, trade. The Norse colonies lasted until the 15th century, when they just mysteriously disappeared. And then there was no kind of Danish presence after 1450. So I thought that was really strange. Like, literally, they were there for like 500 years, and then all of a sudden just poof disappeared. So Denmark and Norway united 1318. They claimed the area based on the old settlements, but they had no effective control. Danish Norwegian reclamation 1721 onwards. They kind of went back to try and re-Christianize any kind of surviving Norse descendants, and obviously, you know, there was huge Christian missions going on, missionary stuff going on in the 1700s. 1951, Denmark officially claimed Greenland as a colony. Denmark imposed a full trade monopoly 1776. Closed the coast to foreigners until 1950. Focused on trade, so sealskins, ivory, missionary work, and protecting Inuits from exploitation. And what they mean by that is obviously protecting Inuits from exploitation by other parties. They could obviously exploit them, but nobody else was allowed to. Norway separated from Denmark in 1814 after the Napoleonic Wars. Then 1931 to 1933, Norway occupied parts of eastern Greenland. So this is Eric the Red's land, claiming it was terra nullius, unoccupied. Denmark sued the Permanent Court of International Justice, the PCIJ, which was the precursor of our International Criminal Court. PCIJ in 1933 ruled that Denmark won. The court found Denmark displayed intention and will to act as sovereign through continuous, if sparse, administration, treaties, and lack of other claims. So basically, Norway kind of rocked up and went, well, nobody's doing anything with it, we're going to take it. And so they took them to court, and the court ruled, well, actually, they have been kind of intermittently doing stuff for the last 150 years, so they can have it. 1916 to 1917, the USA recognized Danish rights as part of buying Danish West Indies. So the USA bought the West Indies, and then at that point, so even before the ruling, the USA had kind of said, like, this is an official thing, this is yours. So post World War II, so during World War II, Denmark was occupied by the Nazis. Greenland became the US protectorate, but protected by the US under the 1941 Defense Agreement, which we're going to talk about a little bit. Then 1953, Greenland integrated as a Danish country, so it was no longer a colony in 1953. With representation in Parliament, the UN removed it from non-self-governing territories list. 1979, they had the Home Rule Act, which is they've got internal self-government, education, health, stuff like that. And 2009, there was this Self-Government Act, which at the time 75% of people approved a referendum, so wanting further powers, right to independence, all of those things. So potentially Greenland can become an independent nation. However, they get a hell of a lot of money from Denmark, so it's not a financially viable option. For those of you in the UK, it's I would suggest that Greenland people in Greenland have got more of a head on their shoulders than the retards up in Scotland, who for some reason think they can become independent and they're going to have all this money. They at no point do they look at the actual money that goes to them from England. And the fact that the English people, by far the largest population out of the three countries in Great Britain, funds the free school, the free universities, the free prescriptions, everything that they have would cease to exist. And the fact that they actually don't even have their own currency, so they can't take sterling. Sterling's like ours. They can't be a member of the EU without their own currency. Like they literally, like, it's a non-starter. I don't even understand why there's indie ref stuff, because it's literally a non-starter. It's all been funded by Qatar and Iran anyway. So, and China. Okay, so Greenland have had this on the cards for almost 20 years and they've not used it. So they definitely understand the fact that, okay, well, this is an option, but where we are right now, we literally can't replace the sheer amount of money that we are getting from Denmark. So there is, with regards to independence, I was like, okay, well, technically, I mean, if Trump wants it, the USA have got far more money than Denmark. So, just like swap one ruler for another, technically. So Greenland can hold a referendum. 70% favor eventual independence. So at the moment, they get 600 million a year, which is 60% of their budget. So it's a lot. Only 8% when they were asked, would they, if they became independent, would they want to, go under USA? Only 8% said they would. So there isn't a huge... It's not like they want to do it. I think they may have to. It depends what Trump offers them, right? Could offer them short-term ownership while stops all the shit that's going on, or who knows. So we'll talk about kind of like the real importance. It's not just the minerals. This is what we're going to find, that the PsyOp is just the minerals, right? There's got to be, if all the mainstream media are talking about something, there has to be something else, right? It just makes me chuckle that you've got all the independent journalists like parroting the mainstream media bullshit, and you're like, well, if the mainstream media are mentioning this, there must be another reason. Must be another reason why they're kind of talking about it. 2 seconds. Yeah, so I mean, an independent Greenland could sell themselves to the USA. They could do a long-term lease, like 100 years, or perpetual, the same sort of shit we're having to do over in the Chagos Islands, because Starmer's decided that he's going to listen to the ICJ and the UN ruling. So the UN ruling was like in the 60s and we just fucking ignored it. The ICJ ruling was in 2019 and we just fucking ignored it. And 30 billion over the space of 100 years is far less than a couple more bloody like legal fees. So he's doing it because he's a dick, basically. So there's a strong Inuit identity in Nash. There's like 57,000 in there at the moment now, mostly Inuit. Hey, Edwin. Oh, it says Denmark provides about 4.5 billion a year. So it's got two conflicting amounts of money, but basically they're very reliant on very reliant on Denmark. Okay, so why do I think Greenland's important? So we have to remember that Trump's goal, if you take all the bullshit out and pay attention to what's actually been going on, rather than, people saying, oh, he's like a globalist, like he's literally been destroying and dismantling the globalist agenda. But, anyway, so if we actually pay attention to what he's doing, it does align with destroying the globalist agenda. So Greenland isn't. So Greenland's location makes it the gateway for 3 potential trans-Arctic shipping corridors that are opening up as the sea ice melts. So basically, the more the ice melts, the more important Greenland becomes with regards to trade and commerce. So we've got the Northwest Passage, which is along North America's northern coast, hugging Greenland's western edge, shortens Asia and Europe, US routes by up to 40%, compared to going through the Suez and the Panama Canal. It's navigatable seasonally now, but they reckon by 2030 to 2040, it will be able to go full time, right? The more the snow melts, the more that it's going to be able to do, like 365 days a year. At the moment, it's only seasonally. There's the Transpolar Sea Route, which is straight across the central Arctic Ocean, which is the shortest future path if ice retreats fully, and Greenland overlooks its eastern approaches. There's also the Northern Sea Route, so Russia's Arctic coast. So already used by Russia escorting ships, but Greenland's position lets monitoring or blocking of traffic entering the Atlantic. So it's a really important trade route. It's also extremely important militarily. We'll talk about that in a minute. So just thinking about money, right? Because, Trump is a capitalist. You want to be able to trade freely. You want goods to be able to move freely. So they could slash shipping and time costs dramatically. So from Shanghai to Rotterdam, it's about 10 to 15 days shorter. It also shifts global trade away from vulnerable southern checkpoints. So we've got the Suez Canal or the Makla Strait. We've got so they would have influence over uses them. So tariffs, inspections, denials, early warning or denial capacity against rivals. So submarine movements, and securing energy flows, so the oil, gas, all of that stuff going through. At the moment, Russia dominates, right? And so, don't get me wrong, like Putin's been doing some good stuff, but the Russians, then they're all in on themselves, and that's not a bad thing. We should all be like focused on our own country. There's still a lot of dodgy people in Russia. Russia's still doing some stuff that's, yes, they might not want to nuke the West. They're not stupid, but we've got to be careful. So Russia dominates the Northern Sea Route. China pushes the Polar Silk Road. So they've got the Belt and Road Initiative, which is going all the way through Middle East and Africa. Basically, they buy the land, then they lease it them back, and then they basically just like destroy them economically by owning all the trade that comes through. So China's doing the exact same thing with the Polar Silk Road. So putting money in ports, research stations, and I'm pretty sure there was a report coming out about the Arctic, how Russia and China are not doing research like they say they're doing. They're testing some kind of weapon. I'm sure I saw that yesterday. So the Greenland, Iceland, UK gaps. This is really important for the UK. I didn't know any of this, like at all. So this is the real strategic military piece of the pie, piece of the puzzle that people are just ignoring. So Greenland, Iceland, UK is the really narrow Atlantic gateway from the Arctic. So during the Cold War, it was NATO's choke point to bottle up any Soviet subs or bombers. So today, Russians' northern fleet, so nuclear subs, hypersonics, must pass here to threaten. So Russia has to go through the GRUK in order to get into America or Europe. And I say must, obviously they can use like direct energy weapons, they can use like spaceship, like all of that other shit. But if you're going to go sub route and you're going to kind of block off trade or any of that, that's the route that Russia has to take. The US Pitufik Space Base, formerly Thule, hosts radar and satellite tracking for missile early warning and sub-detection. It's the shortest path for Russian ICBMs over the North Pole via Greenland. So it's the easiest way for the USA to recognize, considering the whole of Europe are saying Putin is going to nuke us. They're kind of like tying everybody's hands with actually taking control of this real strategic military aligned place, because I don't know why, because they're obviously in on it and they want the war to happen. So we have to remember they want the war to happen. They want the depopulation agenda. They want the military industrial complex to keep going and going and going. They want the global governance. They don't want people being insular. And the easiest way to do that is just like flatten nations, right? So NATO does rely on it for defense, and it's the US's presence. So Trump could just threaten, well, fine, if we can't have it, then we're not keeping it up anymore. Like, touch it. Like, if you want it, you do it. But actually, MI6's ex, I want to say he's not leader, but the guy who used to be in charge of MI6, he's come out backing Trump's play, right? Dear love, he's come out backing Trump, saying they need in order to hold back the tide of Russia and China, the US needs to have Greenland. And remember, MI6, other than, we've got the Nazi in charge of MI6 now. They're been very vocal, MI5, with regards to daily threats from Russia and China, right? It doesn't just single out Russia. It's just, there are 3 huge superpowers who are still vying for control. And either, like we've already said, we're not aligning with Russia. China is like fucking doing all these human rights abuses that we say, you can't do. So we are supposed to be America's ally. Europe is supposed to be America's ally. Like, this is something that the amount of money America's put into all of this stuff over the last 100 years, well, do you know what I mean? 75 years. I would say they probably own Europe, and actually they probably bought it all after all the dodgy fucking deals with World War II. Anyway, okay, so we've got submarines, okay, countering rivals like Russia, and there we go. Okay, so Denmark treats it as part of their kingdom with increasing autonomy, but the US has been treating it like a North American outpost for quite a while. So in 1917, Denmark sold the West Indies, which is now the US Virgin Islands, to the US for $25 million to fund Greenland's administration, right? And to deter foreign claims. So they already had to sell the Virgin Islands in order to secure Greenland. Then in World War II, the Secretary of State, Robert Lassing, eyed Greenland for its command of the commerce of the world. So this is not a new kind of claim, right? This is not Trump. And I think this is also what's being pushed by the media. This is like over 100 years, the USA has been vying and gunning for Greenland. And I'm not saying we should just be like, colonizing. I don't agree with just like, you're now mine. But I do believe like Denmark hasn't really been, I don't know. I mean, I think Greenland should be independent and just make trade deals. I don't agree with Trump owning Greenland, but I understand why. I mean, who knows how many dodgy Inuits are, right? Are the Inuits gonna like fucking side with China and that's it? Who's game over for the West, right? So maybe they are unknown in their political allegiances. So World War II, Denmark. Wait a minute. Yeah, so Denmark was invaded by Nazi Germany, and then the Danish governor of Greenland declared independence from occupied Denmark to avoid German control and sought US and Canadian protection. So US and Canada obviously means ours because we, Canada is, I think pretty much by then, still heavily tied into the USA. But also we had the UK, USA, Canadian tripartite agreement. So I don't know why it doesn't mention UK in there, because it will have been all three. Considering, like, the UK was the one who was, like, fucking leading the charge against the Nazis by ourselves for a very long time until everybody else kind of helped us out. Just gonna throw that out there. So Grok, stop being such a cunt there, mate. Anyway, maybe we were just, like, bombed to shit by this point. Okay, so in 1941, the agreement related to the defense of Greenland was signed between the US, Corder Hull, and Danish ambassador Henrik Kaufmann, acting independently as Denmark was occupied. This treaty allowed US military bases, airfields, and weather stations in exchange for protection, effectively a US occupation or protectorate. And obviously, the real reason they didn't ask us is because we were fucking busy fighting and didn't have the men, right? It's people. You need people and you need money, and we were going bankrupt, and America was bankrupting us anyway. So the US was allowed to build and operate facilities for as long as the existing state of war lasted. Denmark retained sovereignty but granted US full jurisdiction over bases. So Kaufmann's authority was questionable. He defied occupied Denmark's government, but the US recognized it. Post-war Denmark ratified it retroactively in 1951. So Greenland's position enabled US convoys to Europe, weather forecasting for D-Day, and countering U-boats. The USA built 17 bases. It was not initially about minerals, although cryolite, which is for aluminium in airplanes, from the Ivtut mine, was vital. And the USA kind of like claimed it in 1940. So we have there the existing state of war, right? So I mean, America could argue. I mean, if they could argue that. I mean, it depends whether it said like war with Germany or war, because there would be a case. I mean, we've all seen the stuff like Admiral Byrd that the Nazis never lost. They went to Antarctica. They carried on infiltrating and directing things. So technically, is it America's anyway? I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know. Possibly. So 1945 to 1951, the USA offered $100 million to buy Greenland, citing Cold War threats, so Soviet expansion. Denmark refused, but signed the 1951 defense agreement, allowing permanent US bases. So then they've got like aircraft carriers. NATO uses it. Controls those ports. So at the moment, we've got Denmark saying Greenland's not for sale, right? And you know, the USA has been trying to buy it for 100 years. So it's not like a new position, right? I think this is the whole thing, is it's not new, this concept, this idea of taking Greenland or owning Greenland or occupying Greenland, right? They've threatened force if Denmark doesn't sell it or lease it. And I'm not too sure I'm happy with that. I think we ended up in the shit show that we ended up in because of overreach of other nations, i.e. all the shit that happened after World War I, where we just decided that's mine, that's mine, that's mine. And we did the same after World War II. Like, we got to stop fucking... I get... Okay, so Venezuela, right? They've got rid of the bad people. So transitioning to give it back to the people. Agree with that. 100% agree with that. But just like rocking up and being like, we own you now. But we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We don't know what's going on underneath Greenland. We don't actually really know what's going on in the Arctic. We don't really know anything. Like, this is only stuff that we think we know, but there's 99% of the shit we never get told, we never understand. So Sir Richard Dearlove, that's ex-MI6, has said that he supports a US lease 100 years, right? So, and it's like Denmark does not have the money or the military might or the technological advancements or the sheer brute force of will that Trump has, that the USA has. But again, that should terrify everybody, because imagine all this stuff in the wrong hands, right? And we kind of have that with Russia and China, right? We kind of have that because both of them have been using their soft power very fucking successfully to take over the Middle East, to take over South America, to take over Africa, and America just never really developed that skill very well. They just did the same regime change shit, and every time they did it, they put in worst people, right? So this is where we've got the rise of the jihadis. That's like CIA did that shit. China and Russia are just using them now. Like, we are all just caught in this bloody ping pong ball. So minerals, yes. So China dominates as a potential distraction. It's not to say there aren't minerals there. It's not to say it's not useful, but the fact that everybody's focusing on it, it's definitely going to be, in my opinion, that's the PsyOp part of it, right? So China dominates with 80% of the market. And didn't Germany's just found like lithium, like shitloads of lithium? Didn't we find loads of lithium in the UK the other day? So I don't trust these rare earth material lists, because I think they only release the ones with where they want to go, and like who does the lists, right? It's not like regular people. It is the organizations that are controlling the world that are deciding, oh, well, we need these like minerals, and this is the only place you can have it. It's the only place that they exist, except, oh, wait, we find all these ones, right? I mean, Japan found 7,000 islands. Like, what's on those islands? Like, was the people there? Like that's like a big amount of land mass, right? Not like teeny tiny little like nubbins in the sea, like actual islands that could be populated. Like, what's on those islands? We don't get told jack shit. They can make deals for the minerals. Like, they don't need to. The fact that Trump is threatening brute force, right? Either you do this or we will like follow up with like bad shit coming your way. Like, it doesn't make sense for the minerals. Like, I know everybody portrays him as this psychopathic dictator, but he's been doing deals. And yes, those deals have been benefiting America. That's what he should do. It's his country. But he's not just been kind of, he's not just been like rocking up with like taking over. He's been like threatening people. Fair enough. That's what the UN does. That's what EU do. They threaten us with tariffs. They fucking threaten us with taking us to court. Like he's not doing anything that none of the other countries are doing. He absolutely could just rock up and take his Starmer, and I don't think anybody would mind if he did, as long as he went to prison. I mean, I would mind, because I think that I think that we should deal with it. I mean, if we asked him to come and do it, that's different. But if he just rocks up and does it, that's wrong. It's also, I think he must be watching my shows, because if you haven't heard, they used direct energy weapons to subdue the Venezuelans, right? So they They were unable to fight back. That's what I've been saying for years. We do not need to go and invade with hot weapons. You literally just like do them and then just trundle along past, right? All you'd need on your soldiers is like, you know, they just need earphones and they could be playing like different frequencies. So as long as your soldiers aren't being exposed to the negative frequencies, and okay, so it's not just in your brain, your body has to feel it as well, but you would just have like armor that reflects the like, so if you're the one who's got the weapon, you sure as hell have got the armor and the protection to make sure that it's not going to get boomeranged against you. So I was quite happy to find out that they're actually using this technology that they developed like 80 years ago, and not just America developed, but like everybody developed this type of technology. It's also free. It's just electricity. Anyway, so we also have to remember that when we think about just trade, so yes, it's great 100% militarily, but also with trade. So we have to remember that I think it was 2024. So not long after Trump got into power, there was the whole kerfuffle with Panama Canal, with China. Here we go. So China own the inroads and outroads, right? So in order to trade through, you've got to be funding China, right? You literally, in order to trade, you have to pay China, because they own the in and the out. So the only way you're getting through is you're probably paying them twice, right? You just cut off China from like you wouldn't need them. It'd be faster, it'd be cheaper, like the goods would be cheaper. It helps to get rid of this monopoly that China has been allowed to create. Now, the other thing that just always confuses me with regards to this, because one of the things that Tory says a lot is, basically America owns China. So if America owns China, why are they fighting with them so fucking much? Like, maybe that's like, and it's all about to do with the CCP, and how they came to power, and how the actual Chinese people asked the USA for help because they were like having civil war, and the USA sent them guns and stuff, but they sent them shit ones, and they sent them delayed so that obviously the CCP could rise. They did the similar sort of thing with Japan. I mean, they weren't having a civil war, but it bought at some point in the 50s or 60s, they literally just bought all of the politicians. So it's like, so America's kind of been owning a lot of these places, and so America's kind of fighting with itself. Like you got it, but obviously it's good versus bad, right? So good versus evil, because why this, China does some extremely horrific things to its own people, so they can't be the good people, right? So the only reason you'd want China to rise and Russia to rise is so that the military industrial complex can keep selling weapons. You have to have something that you're afraid of, right? So they have to be the biggest threat, so we can keep spending this money on the defense budget, so we can keep diverting funds from all the things that are going to make you feel good, so we can keep distracting you, so we can keep the fear on, the pressure on, while we do all of this sick fucking shit in other countries that you're not paying attention to because Russia's going to nuke you. So we also have the other trade choke point is the Suez Canal, which the Houthi are constantly disrupting. So it benefits the UK immensely if Trump has more control over Greenland. It benefits the EU immensely if Trump has more control over Greenland. And it also strengthens and secures the NATO alliance. So trade-wise, brings more money into Europe and the UK, right? Because it's faster, it's cheaper. People are going to start using that more. It's better for safety. Like, I get Denmark needs to be a bit like it is. I think the Greenlanders should just they should vote. My personal opinion, the Greenlanders should vote independent and then do their own deals with the USA. Is what I think should happen. Because but I wonder whether they'd still be part of Europe. Maybe they can vote Brexit, whatever that would be. Who are they? Grenzit. I don't know. But yeah, that's what I think we should be encouraging them to. America could easily. If you think about all the money you've saved from not paying USAID, from Dodge, from not funneling all the fucking laundering money left, right, and center, with if you're paying a lease, you know, be doing a deal, and you could even. Because you could support them, kind of like China's doing, you could support them to, be a proper full-on like port or full trade route, and they have a percentage of it could be like profit sharing, right? It could be a beneficial joint venture of which the USA has the capital to invest in Greenland. And obviously has the people, has the military might. So Denmark doesn't have the money, doesn't have the people, doesn't have I mean, they're not exactly big players on the world stage, because I would say 90% of people didn't even know Denmark existed. Like I did. But I don't know much about Denmark though. And again, I don't think the USA should own Greenland. I think Greenland people should own Greenland, because I think it is hypocritical for me and anybody else and America. This is the hypocriticalness. You want America for Americans and America first, right? So then you have to let the Greenlanders do like Greenland first, right? And in the UK, like we want England and the United Kingdom, and we want that. Well, I mean, I want us to say as United Kingdom because I'm not an idiot. But England want people who are ethno-nationalists want Scotland to be for the Scottish, Wales to be for the Welsh, and England to be for English. But if you're then suggesting like Trump should take Greenland, like we do just need to like stop the hypocrisy. Like, so what I asked Grok to do is to slip into his evil. So my phone was going off. Sorry, evil overlord state. So I asked him this is the response. If I was an evil overlord scheming to undermine the West, my primary goal would be to weaken the US and its allies economically, militarily, and politically. All the things which are strengthened if the US has more involvement in Greenland. Without direct confrontation, if possible, allowing the US to acquire or control Greenland would be a massive setback for that plan. So I'd pull every string to prevent it. And here's why, step by step, from my dastardly perspective. And this is what we're seeing the EU do. This is what we're seeing, kind of the UN do, is just en masse kibosh any kind of conversation about this. So first up, deny the West unmatched military dominance in the Arctic. So Greenland's position is like a giant chess piece controlling the board. It overlooks the GRUK, the critical choke point for submarines, missiles, and aircraft entering the Atlantic from the Am I back? Okay. So if the US owned or fully controlled it, they could expand bases like Pitoft, which used to be Thule, into an impregnable fortress for radar, satellite tracking, and hypersonic missile defense. As an evil overlord, say aligned with either Russia or China, I'd want to keep the Arctic contested. Russia relies on its northern fleet shipping through undetected for power projection. China wants to militarize its polar Silk Road. US control would bottle them up, making naval threats, submarines carrying nukes or hypersonics far less effective. Better to keep it Danish tied when NATO politics and Denmark's limited military budget cap expansions, right? So China and Russia and the cabal benefit from it being tied to Denmark. They need to be independent. Number 2, sabotage emerging Arctic shipping routes, and trade leverage. So climate change is melting sea ice, opening the Northwest Passage and transpolar routes. A shorter paths from Asia to Europe or North America that could slash shipping times by 30-40%, bypass choke points like the Malacca Strait, which I, as an overlord, might control or influence. US ownership of Greenland lets them dominate these routes, impose tolls, inspections, blockades on my ships, such as Russian LNG tankers or Chinese cargo. And bearing in mind, the UK and USA just work together to stop ships. So there's the Venezuelan oil. So the UK has been like helping the USA like in the background, and people haven't been paying attention. So this is why the UK is keeping 22 million of Venezuelan gold. Sorry, is it 2 billion? Is a lot. Maybe it's 2 billion. I don't know. I can't remember the amount. There's lots of gold from Venezuela. Wait a minute. I know where the 22 number came from. It's because we confiscated in 2022. Sorry. I read that much, but lots of gold. So we now have lots of Venezuelan gold because we confiscated it under all of the tariffs, under all of the you must not do XYZ shit. We stole it, technically, confiscated it. And now we're keeping it. So the UK is like profiting from the stuff that Trump's doing, and we're helping them sneakily in the background there. In 2022, Trump wasn't even in office, was he? So by blocking the deal, I'd keep routes fragmented. Russia controls the North Sea. I could invest in alternatives. So China's icebreakers, probing Greenlandic ports. Chaos favors the disruptor. Stability favors the West. Number 3, prevent resource and economic supremacy beyond just minerals. Okay, oops. So Greenland's rare earths, uranium and zinc are valuable for tech or defense, so batteries, EVs and nukes, and the US getting them would reduce dependence on supply chains such as China. But the real prize is energy and food security in a warming world. Greenland's melting ice exposes fisheries, hydrocarbons, and hydropower potential. US control would lock in Western advantages in Arctic resources, starving baddies' economies, rather keep it neutral or influenced via Denmark through economic deals, turning it into a wedge issue. Denmark being part of... we've got all the net zero bullshit that we're all signing up to. Probably not allowed to fish in their own water. They probably give the EU don't let us fish in our own waters. The Greenlandiers probably wouldn't be allowed to fish in their own waters. Number 4, exploit and amplify Western internal division. So pushing for Greenland would fracture NATO. So Denmark, which is a key ally, resents coercion. The EU sees it as imperialism, and Greenlanders push for independence. As an overlord, I'd fan those flames, leak divisive info, fund protests, or whisper to allies that Trump's America First grabs undermined collective security. It's literally what we've been seeing. So I didn't know anything about them wanting to be independent. Remember, it's 75% of Greenlanders would vote independent. And only 8% would vote to kind of go under Trump. So it's not like they want to escape and go to the USA. They want actual independence. So why aren't and it's codified in their law since 2009, so it's not a new thing. Why aren't like mainstream media outlets and everybody's talking about, well, you know, why don't you let the Greenland people decide what they want to do, who they want to do deals with? Everyone's like, no, Denmark will keep it. Denmark is keeping it, right? So they've got like the fucking narcissistic ownership model, except we're supposed to decolonize. Long-term geopolitical calculus keep the West overextended. So acquiring Greenland would give the US a win that consolidates power, better missile shields, secure routes, resource independence, freeing up resources to counter the cabal elsewhere, such as in Taiwan or Ukraine. By blocking it through diplomacy, propaganda, and proxies, you force the West to spend political capital, money, and time on alternatives, such as a more expansive base in Iceland or Norway, keeps them reactive, divided, and stretched thin, perfect for divide and conquer strategy. So in the evil scheme, Greenland isn't just land, it's a lever to tip the balance. The West grabbing it would make dominance too easy. Denying it keeps the game rigged in my favor. Of course, as Grok, I'm all for truth-seeking and peace, but hypothetically, that's how I'd play it. Okay, so it's definitely beyond the minerals. Like, Trump does deals with people left, right, and center. Like, didn't he do like a book, The Art of the Deal, or something? I mean, he's a businessman first, politician second. If he wanted the minerals, he'd get the minerals. It can't be about those. Not when you threaten brute force. I reckon it 100% is to do with military, but also to do with the trade, and also to do with a huge disruption to Russia, China, because that's what he did with Venezuela. So if you look at what happened with Nigeria and Syria, and because China's got Belt and Road funding Iran, that was jihadis were like, you know, done. Venezuela, but inroads like China and Russia and Iran, right? That was Venezuela was next. So it's not. He's not just randomly attacking places for places' sake, right? Because he could quite literally say, we're going to. Oh, my days. I keep getting kicked off. I hope I'm back. It says I'm back. But he could just decide, well, I'm going to, you know, take England, or, you know, so like, he hasn't. There's specific reasons. I don't know, maybe he might decide to take the UK after the whole X bullshit that's going on. And, you know, we have to let them do it, right? We have to let them. If they want to get rid of X, we have to let them. I promise you. The actual boomerang from them doing it. And I'm not talking about, you know, USA free speech shit. I'm talking about stuff that our own government has been promoting. If they get rid of X, they back themselves into a huge fucking corner about something that I don't think they've considered, because they're dumb. And they also think that we're stupid and we don't pay attention. So I'm willing them to do it, because then we get standing, right? You don't get standing to take somebody to court if you preempt stuff. And we've got Telegram for little convos. Telegram's there. I mean, it's not as fast flowing, free flowing of information necessarily as X, but this Telegram is there. you know, as a safety net until obviously they take time. But actually, if they X is very unique when it comes to a social media platform, because they're not actually going after X, they're going after Grok. And they're going after Grok because of the 33 people who used it to create child abuse images. I mean, let's just look at Labour's history on actually dealing with child rapists, child torturers, child murderers. The actual things that they've done, like, they care more about a fake AI child than they do about the real children. Like, this is literally what we're seeing right now. And this is not even the boomerang I'm talking about. Like, I'm not going to mention it because it'll be, if they do it, it'll be fun to mention it afterwards. So, but yeah, I mean, the sheer hypocrisy. And then I don't know whether saw this one MP on X. I mean, obviously they keep putting Keir Starmer in a bikini, and I find that offensive. I'm not gonna lie, but they're not really putting Keir Starmer in a bikini. They just do, like, Grok does a face swap, right? But there's one MP who literally said she has been digitally sexually violated or something along the lines that. Because they put her in a bikini. Digitally sexually assaulted, I'm pretty sure she said. Right? If somebody wants to put me in a bikini, go for it. I can guarantee you it's probably far better than what I actually look like in a bikini. So, you know, I might not be as pasty. Who knows? But it's just like, as kids, we used to draw that shit, right? If you genuinely are suggesting that somebody putting you in a bikini is on the same level as children legit being raped, tortured, harassed, murdered, and all the shit the kids went through as part of the grooming stuff, and is still undergoing because it's not gone away, and the Casey report stated it is still happening. The actual sheer audacity of this MP with the framing of the text, but the Grok, whatever, the X message to suggest her being put in a bikini is as harmful. Actually, from her words, I would suggest she thinks it's more harmful to her than what the children underwent. Ofcom being the ones to do it, why didn't they ban Facebook when Facebook was literally selling children? Why didn't they ban Twitter when Twitter was literally selling children? Like, I think that's worse than an AI making. I do think Grok and all AI, because it isn't just Grok that's doing it, it's that all the AIs, at what point did the developers not consider I can't talk to Grok about committing suicide, right? So I don't know whether you know, there was a young lad who was talking to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT ended up encouraging them to kill themselves, right? So if you try and talk to an AI about suicide, they will just tell you, I can't talk about this. Here's the numbers. And I wasn't talking about committing suicide myself. I was trying to kind of, so for those who've been here a while, you know that I tried to end my life in 2004. So I was actually like trying to work it into an email sequence, right? And he just came back with, we can't discuss this, we can't talk about suicide, right? So if you can't talk about suicide, at what point did somebody not think, like, maybe we should put in, we've got sick, twisted people on the internet, in the world, they're absolutely going to use this Like, it was inevitable. I don't understand why people are, 1, shocked that it's happening, 2, never even thought it might happen, 3, there isn't a fucking fail-safe in all of them to but they buy dolls. You can buy childlike sex dolls. Why haven't they gone after the creators of the actual child sex dolls? They haven't gone after the actual rapists of children. They haven't gone after the people who create the sex dolls. They've gone after, like, the bottom of the rung or in the hierarchy of like, actually abusing children. This is why the entire thing is so fucking pathetic. Nobody gave a shit that Hugh Edwards was on the BBC raping children, or Jimmy Savile, and at no point has the BBC been shut down for all the shit they fucking done, pushing Hamas propaganda. Like, Ofcom's okay with that? Yeah. But these 33 sick and twisted people, and I bet all those 33 people aren't even in the UK, right? Bastards. Okay, so we just detoured slightly. But I'm going to talk about elections, right? So I said last week I wanted to have a little look into the elections being cancelled because I'd watched that. There's Council Watch, which is a YouTube channel, and it's people. I think the lady kind of started watching her own council, and now she's kind of grown her channel. It's quite a good one. She's got some really good points. So she had a lady on, who's ex-Polish. Who moved to the UK and like as after all kind of communism and stuff was kind of being lifted. So she started seeing it happen again. And when I was watching it, I wasn't quite sure of what she was saying. I mean, I understood what she was saying. It wasn't because she had a Polish accent. I mean, I wasn't convinced that what she's saying is grounded in reality, and the reason, very legit reasons, is that it is unproven and untested in court. So what they're doing is they are doing the groundwork to take the government to court, from what I can ascertain. So there's the whole, I mean, we mentioned kind of elections being cancelled, not cancelled before. So they are planning on, again, still like postponing the elections, and it's a voluntary thing that councils could decide to do. The whole point is that they're doing it to redraw the boundaries, to create unitary authorities, and so this is not affecting me in Telford. The reason why it's not affecting me in Telford is a weird, like, Telford and Wrekin, which is already a unitary authority, and it has been since it was 1998. So that basically means a council which has pretty much responsibility for everything. So the government gives them the money and they decide how to spend it, which is why it used to drive me fucking crackers every time when I was a parish councillor. They'd be like, oh, the government cuts, the cuts. And I was like, we have all the money. We're the ones who decide what to do with it. If you don't go and spend 10 million on that bullshit project over there, that 10 million can be used to fund this care home that you're now shutting that was only 650,000 a year. And they actually then obviously gave that money to the Gower, and the Gower also got money off got money off, like, millions from the lottery, millions from the Heritage Foundation, and now it's just been bought by a developer. So that was a big fucking money laundering operation, which obviously the police don't give a shit about because they're in on it over here in Telford, allegedly. No. They've had, like, the police have, like, had, like, evidence of financial corruption from Telford and Wrekin Council, and they just don't give a shit. The lady spearheading that, poor thing, she passed away last year, but they were fighting for a very long time. And when I was 2016, they handed, like, full proof of, like, financial corruption. Nobody cares. Which is why you get like disillusioned. Okay, so basically what's happening is they are joining little authorities together, and they're going to create one giant unitary authority, and then they're going to put a mayor on top, right? So this is why they are delaying the local elections, because they're pretty much like, there's no point doing a local election to then do a mayoral election, actually, because elections aren't cheap. They aren't cheap. However, the reason I personally believe Labour blocking those elections is because they will swing really fucking hard away from Labour, which will mean they may very well lose the opportunity to throw the mayors in and throw and further devolve the nation, right? So what the globalist WEF puppets want is a WEF puppet in control of everything, right? Like from top to bottom, every single little council needs to be responsible by this one individual. Massively reduce the number of it will massively reduce the number of councillors, which means you've got less opportunity to actually get help, get your grievances heard. You've got less opportunity to affect change in your area. So, just a quick update. My question to Telford Council, which will be the 22nd of this month, was half accepted and half rejected. So they accepted, and this is different to other councils who've not allowed people talk about ID. So I'm allowed to propose a question. Let me tell you specifically, just in case you got yours rejected. I mean, you can always wait till after the 22nd and then add it, and another council's just allowed it or something. I get 2 minutes to speak, but I've got a really sneaky plan for the bit that was rejected, so that's fun. What did they say? Here we go. So this is what they said. So thank you for your question for inclusion on the agenda for the meeting. 6 o'clock, Thursday, 22nd of January. The council's monitoring officer requested I reach out to see if you're content with your question appearing as follows. So they've literally said some of it you're not allowed. So I'm allowed to say, given the 3 million signature petition and rejections by councils like Cornwall, will the council table a motion opposing the mandatory digital ID scheme, citing local digital exclusion risks, 10 to 15% of households, and that's exclusively Telford and Wrekin. So that 10 to 15% may not be your region. So it might be more or might be less. So with regard to the second part of your question, the council's constitution states that the council can receive questions about any matter in relation to which the council has powers or duties which affects the borough. Migration law is not within the competency of the council and cannot be considered. So they kind of like the last half of my question initially said, and underutilized existing migration laws like the Borders Act 2007. So I actually wasn't asking Telford and Wrekin Council to do anything with regards to migration. I was just using an example of the pressure that I want them to put onto the government, because there are legislations in place they're not using. Right, this is the whole point with the illegal, the immigration. This is why I get very angry with Farage and everybody parroting Farage, saying we need to get rid of the Human Rights Act, we need to get decoupled from the ECHR because of immigration. Like, that's bullshit. Like, that is absolute bullshit. We got rid of Shamima Begum. We stripped her citizenship. We had the Human Rights Act. I know she's going through the European Courts of Human Rights now, but we can just ignore them, right? Because our country has sovereignty. And we've proved this over and over and over again. So the 2007 Borders Act literally states if somebody has a 12-month sentence, they're deported. Right. And for anybody who says they're a refugee, you can only legitimately claim refugee status if you stop in the first safe country. So anybody who passes through a safe country defies the UN's actual definition of a refugee. right? So they tie themselves in these fucking little knots, and they think we're too stupid to notice. But if you had your question rejected, maybe they weren't as nice as my person who then suggested and told me why. Right. And on that note, my petition was rejected. My petition was rejected because supposedly there's another one that's the same. The other one they said's the same is very different. So I'm going to have to wait for it's similar, but it's not the same thing. So we're going to have to wait for that one to run its course. It's only got like 300 people signed it. So once that's run its course, I'm going to have to resubmit it. But that's okay. It's fine. But yeah, so my that'll be fun. So Telford is a unitary authority, already has the authority to deal with education, schools, healthcare, all of those things. So it does align with Shropshire on some things. So the health we have, they kind of do integrated stuff because we have Telford and Shrewsbury Hospital are joined, and Shrewsbury's under Shropshire. So there's some allegiance. Now, Telford will never be a mayoralship. They tried. While I was a parish councillor, they tried to pull Telford into the West Midlands Unitary Authority, West Midlands mayoralship, which is got Birmingham, which is fucking dodgy as shit, right? Wolverhampton, also quite dodgy. Tried to pull Telford into that, which is like Labour. And everybody said no. Like the residents went fucking nuts. It's not happening. If we were going to align with anyone, it would be Shropshire, and there's no way Telford and Wrekin will do that. It's because Shropshire was at the time it was Conservative, now it's Lib Dem, which is even more dangerous if you ask me. But there's no way they'll do it because they will lose their seats, right? So they're grappling onto power, and so Telford's kind of in this little we're kind of protected because they're so fucking power hungry. Now, if you're in one of the areas where you are being the boundaries are being drawn, and everybody's like kind of pushing this as though it's like Starmer, it was actually started under the Conservatives, right? This is the Conservative thing. We have to remember, like this. The UN Sustainable Development Goals was done under David Cameron. Lots of things were put in place under Tony Blair. So from 2007 onwards, were put in place. 2004 onwards, was put in place under Tony Blair, kind of like sleeper legislation. So what we're seeing is lots of, I'm going to call it like sleeper legislation that's going on the books, without people knowing, without people paying attention, and is now being pulled on like as legitimate legislation for why we're doing this thing. But it's not Labour government who were doing it per se. It is the Conservative government did it. So for all of the Conservative MPs who are saying, oh, well, you're only doing this because you get wiped out, like, you're the one who fucking started it. Like, it was already, the wheels were already in motion, right? So I was a parish councillor 2016 to 2018. And I did not defect to another party. When I became disillusioned with the Conservative Party, I walked away, right? I do not respect anybody who was voted for by the people to represent them in one way, who then their politics change, right? So if I'm voted as MP as reform, I would never fucking stand for reform. But if I was, and then I somehow or did, and maybe I haven't realized that reform are corrupt as fuck, right? And then all of a sudden I realized they're exactly the same. I'm not going to switch parties. I'm going to leave. I'm going to force a by-election because I have integrity. So that's what I did. I left. But so that was under the Conservative. That was under the full Conservative government, right? It wasn't even under the Lib Dem Conservative coalition. It was under the full Conservative government. They started doing huge boundary changes. David Cameron was the one who wanted to do all the boundary changes, because he's the one who signed the Sustainable Development Goals. Yes, Starmer is a WEF puppet. Yes, that it's all kind of like we've got these young global WEF like knobheads. It's just overt. So it was covert for like 10 years. It's just you're seeing it now. We have to make sure we're calling people out who are saying Labour are doing it. Actually, the Conservatives did it. So it was already in play. It was already in play. The legislation was already in the books. So the reason why they're delaying it is because they're like, elections are effort, they're money, they are annoying. So they're delaying it because they're like, why are we going to elect people for 12 months and then maybe half of the councillors no longer have seats? And actually, you know, those councillors could always pull out of the mayoralship stuff, which has now been pushed back, right? It's been pushed back. So what was happening in the oh, here we go. So Meline Hunt from the Heritage Party, she's the Polish one. So she was saying there's two types of elections. There's the local government, which she says is unlawful to postpone ordinary local council elections because they're democratic. They have to happen every so often. I mean, they can be stopped, in unprecedented times. In order for them to delay them, they have to, the government will have to reach quite a high threshold. Not every council was given the opportunity to delay, and the ones that were, it was voluntary. Now, obviously, the councils have said we have to, because they then get to hold on to power for another year. Right? It's just they're narcissistic. But so she's saying that the other ones are unlawful. And so the reason why the mayoral elections are delayed is good. And I'd said this before, that we don't want mayors because we don't want more of the C40 fucking Sadiq Khan, Andy Burnham, like mafia mayors in control. Like, there's the videos of Sadiq Khan literally going, I don't understand what you mean about grooming. What do you mean by grooming gangs? What do you mean by grooming gangs? Right? He's literally in charge of the police. He's in charge of the transport. Like him. It's not like the council decide and there's votes. Like he's the one who oversees that entire fucking budget. The same as Andy Burnham. The reason why they've never had an inquiry in Oldham is because Andy Burnham's blocked it himself every single fucking time. It's dodgy. Is he a mayor or is he an MP? Maybe he's I don't know, but he's fucking, I mean, it's a mafia, so it doesn't really matter. So what they're doing, so they did some letters they sent out, they did FOI requests, they got lots of information, basically using the government's own words against them. So they're saying there's a housing crisis, they're saying, climate agendas, 5G, all of those things are the reasons why they're having to do the reorganization. So, they went and they did like FOI request about all of these things. And so now they've got the evidence to say that that's a lie, right? So you've said we have to do X, Y, Z, and you told the people you have to do X, Y, Z, and the people will have had a consultation. And some places haven't had the consultation, which is why the mayoral elections have gone back, because you have to do the consultation. Now, it doesn't mean they have to listen to it. There's no like legally binding. They just the legal standpoint is they must do a consultation. They can completely fucking ignore it if they choose to, which is what Telford and Reeking do all the time. All the fucking time. And do like even locally in Oaken Gates, like the amount of times we've said fucking no, the amount of times we've done like petitions. There's one petition we like, so to put it in perspective, like Oaken Gates parish about 6,500 residents. We had 3,000 signatories. So 50%. So Oaken Gates, so the borough, so Oaken Gates ward, we had 6,000. So out of 6,000, 3,000 people signed to say no, and they did it anyway. There's like 50% of the population, and you got to, like, there's kids and stuff, right? It was this. We said no, don't do it, don't fucking do that. We don't want that. It's gonna fuck up the high street. I do know anyway. So that's what they're trying to prove. They're trying to prove that they were like, the whole missold, right? They've said this has to be done because of XYZ, but there is actually no evidence to prove XYZ. Therefore, this doesn't have to be done. And I would argue, if they're not arguing, in the economic instability, with regards to the financial constraints, with this fucking giant billion black hole that Labour keeps going on about, it is an unnecessary expense for right now. So the claims are from Heritage Party activists and challengers. The Electoral Commission, remember, has expressed concerns about postponements, but the Electoral Commission is not independent anymore. That was something, again, the governments, progressive governments, have decided it doesn't have, it's no longer allowed to have the teeth that it used to have, because they get fucking called on it. So in 2021, the Conservative government did the exact same thing, and the Electoral Commission supported them then. So they can only postpone if reorganization is central to devolution. So it's not everybody, like I was saying. So I was like, okay, well, what legislation is allowing them to do this? So it's part of the local government organisations, the LGR, and devolution efforts aiming to create unitary authorities and combined county authorities, CCAs, with metro-style mayors. It is emphasising efficiency and preparation, but has sparked debates on democratic legitimacy. So what Meddling Hunt is arguing, that they're being applied unlawfully without proper mandates, consultations, or justification. So basically, they will be launching judicial reviews if it goes ahead. So not long after they kind of submitted their access, whatever it is, to say we are bringing a lawful challenge against you, it was like days after they delayed the mayoral election. So the timings are odd, right? But they're obviously not going to tell you that's the reason why, because if they tell you that's the reason why, then people realize that they're the ones with the power. But the timing, right? Because up until that point, it was happening, and they were pushing it, pushing it, and then all of a sudden, oh, well, we probably have to wait. But like I mentioned, one of the things they're waiting, they're postponing for, is because they have to do a consultation. So they've just admitted they didn't do it. This is why you've got to let them do it, and then you can fuck them up afterwards. If you do it in advance, I mean, digital ID will have to stop in advance, but they will just come back again and come back again. It's just like a forever fucking fight. C'est la vie, hey? Okay, so primary legislation. So Section 87 of the Local Government Act 2000. This grants the Secretary of State, who is currently in the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government. So it gives the Secretary of State the power to make an order changing the year of ordinary local elections for specific authority. It's used when reorganisation requires it, ensuring elections don't disrupt mergers into unitary structures. So that act's been on the card since the year 2000. Local Government and Public Involvement in Health Act 2007 provides the broader framework for structural changes, such as creating unitary authorities, and allows election adjustments as part of the LGR. This act requires councils to meet criteria like improving efficiency and reducing duplication. Levelling Up and Regeneration Act 2023. So this is the big one. In 2023, it was the Conservatives in power, not Labour. So this reinforces devolution, including LGR, and indirectly supports postponements by prioritising ambitious timelines for reorganisation tied to devolution deals. So councils in eligible two-tier areas or neighbouring small unitaries can request postponement via the Devolution Priority Programme launched in December 2024. The Secretary of State assesses requests against high bar. Delays are only approved if essential for delivering LGR and devolution, such as merging councils by April 27 or 28. Of 18 requests by January 25, only 9 were approved. Others were rejected for not meeting DPP criteria or lacking urgency. Is implemented via statutory instrument. So, like the local authorities, changes of years ordinary elections for England, Order 2025, which uses the negative procedure. So it becomes law automatically unless Parliament annuls it within 40 sitting days. This order also adjusts future terms, so 3 years post 2026 for most, and allows by-elections for vacancies. So basically, they submit a statutory instrument. They do it, and only if Parliament nulls it within 40 days, it doesn't become law. So that's a fucking loophole and a half. So, debates on lawfulness. The House of Lords, 24th of March 25, motions to annul the order criticise it for damaging accountability, lacking consultation, and eroding mandates. The Secondary Legislation Scrutiny Committee flagged it as politically or legally important, recommending scrutiny due to opposed public views. The Electoral Commission expressed concern. So the lady who was doing it argues councils acted without mandates, spent funds ultra vires, that means outside of what they are allowed to do, and lacked consultations, making delays unlawful. Evidence from FOI's minutes support judicial reviews, but the framework allows if conditions are met. And again, judicial review is the key thing that they will get, one of the key things that they will get rid of if they get rid of the Human Rights Act and do the Bill of Rights. Which in all of the proposed changes, judicial reviews were removed, right? That is our opportunity to actually hold the government to account. And it can cost like tens of thousands, but it's an avenue for redress. And if you've got like 5,000 people putting a tenner in, you got enough money to bring it to court. So they're perfectly set up for class actions without having to do a class action and without having to kind of hire like lawyers and barristers. Like it's designed for the people to go against the state. So in a nutshell, they're not doing anything unlawful with regards to postponing, because it's all been set out and been used in 2021 successfully, right? So they are just doing the same thing that the Conservative government did. Now, the difference is that we kind of cottoned on to this shit now, and the framing of why it needs to be done is potentially they've just told fucking porcupines. And actually, I mean, they didn't do the consultation, so they postponed it. So, but they will just do the consultation and pull it back. But yeah, I 100% think it's something that people should fight against. We did in Telford with the Labour government trying to put us into the West Midlands Combined Authority. We said no. Thank fuck. I didn't even know what was going on back then. I was just like, I'm not having fucking Birmingham's mayor telling me what to do. Fuck that shit. I've seen the mess of Birmingham, and I didn't even know it was as bad as it is now, right? But Birmingham is nothing like Telford. Like, we are, if we're aligned with anyone, it's Shropshire. Which, because that, like, and everybody, so people will say, well, you're 36 miles from Birmingham, and you're maybe like 20 odd miles from Shrewsbury, so you're actually like closer to Birmingham because Shropshire's huge. And so they use like miles, right? This is for, if you're in the process of fighting this, they will use miles. But actually, the cultural alignment of people from Telford and Reeking is Shropshire. Like, we are we're a market town, like huge links with the rest of Shropshire. Birmingham is a fucking city, and so what they keep doing is they keep putting overspill of Birmingham, Wolverhampton into Telford to then pull us like, oh, but look, you've got all these like ex-Birmingham people, so you're like close to Birmingham. No. Just no. People in Telford do not go into Birmingham. It's a fucking shit show. And Telford's not like amazing. We've got good bits. So we got the world's first iron bridge in Telford. But Telford was a collection of smaller little market towns that in the 50s, again, you know, UN agenda, unitary authority, like they already started like a long fucking time ago, right? So they decided to create Telford like in the 50s. They literally just went like, all of you're now a town. Like, doesn't matter that you've got no fucking conversation with the rest of these guys, you're now a town, and it's tough shit. And the boundaries are really fucking weird with regards to one side of the river as part of one bit, and the other side of the river, it's done weird, but it's now been done weird for quite a while. So, okay, so I just wanted to really briefly touch on the fact that there are like mass deaths going on with regards to the Kurds in Syria at the moment, and everybody's talking about Iran. Like, everybody's talking about Iran now because now it's popular. Bearing in mind, I've said this multiple times, they've been protesting for a very long fucking time. They've been being executed for a very long fucking time. And fingers crossed Trump will do something about it, right? And the entire West should be doing something about it. But unfortunately, the rest of the West are celebrating the IRG and Khamenei, the ISIS people who we're supposed to be fighting against. Like, it just, I genuinely can't even understand how they have that in their mind as a good thing. But the same with Venezuela, right? Like, we're all for helping the people, but, you know, Venezuelans, we want your fucking like cartel murdering regime in because Trump says no. But at the moment, so for the last 6 days in Aleppo, so between Syrian government forces under the new transitional government, but led by Ahmed al-Shara, I did a show on, like, we did a deep dive on that guy, right? He's ex Al-Qaeda, like, he's not good people. So this, I'm not, again, this shouldn't be a surprise for anyone that it's happening. Now, the fact that the USA and the UK kind of like, and the West have met this guy, gave him legitimacy, like, everybody said that was just fucking dodgy in the first place. So now they've kind of like stepped it up a notch, and they are rounding up Kurdish people. They are massacring them. And again, like, the Kurdish people are the people who like helped us defeat ISIS, and Turkey have been trying to genocide them for a very long fucking time. We talk about England for the English. The Kurds don't have land. Like, every time they try to claim a bit of land that used to be theirs, and Turkey stole it and other places stole it, they're not allowed it, right? So the Palestinians are allowed the land that was never theirs, that they've just decided is theirs, and it was kind of decided late on that they could have it, and they kept rejecting it because they wanted all of it. So the Palestinians, they're allowed to stake their claim. The English people, you're not allowed to stake your claim. Israel, you're not allowed to stake your claim. Kurds, you don't fucking get a claim. Like the actual sheer hypocrisy of the left is genuinely beyond any logical understanding. And I'm sure if you actually just said to them, there must be a way of helping them understand how retarded they're being. So Penelope shared a video with me like yesterday, day before, and there is a journalist who is like goes up to a woke fucking lefty who's got a full mask on, you know, because the super flu, or whatever's going on right now. And he was saying, you know, the guy was saying, you know, white privilege, you know, and the journalist is like, yeah, but if you've got no right to be robbed, and all of this stuff, and the left is like, well, if they're going to take your stuff, they should take your stuff, they deserve it, you know, we colonized this land, like this is in America, like all of this, like. And so the journalist guy, the citizen journalist, goes up, like there's a mixed race guy walking past, and he says, mate, do you need a new phone? And he said, I can get you one for free, right? And so then he turns around to the left and he says, right, give him your phone. And the mixed race guy is like, oh yeah, I'll have the phone. And then the left is like, well, I need it because my friend, and he's like, no. The mixed race guy's like, well, like, yeah, but I'm robbing you now, and you said it's okay for me to rob you. And then there's like 3 young lads who are like, well, again, non-white origin. They had hoodies up, so I couldn't tell you any more. And they were like, yeah, but well, I want some money. Give me some money. And so the minute that this lefty was called on their insanity, they became far right. Right, like just like that. That's how you go from left to right. Is you get threatened. I think this is a really important video, and I definitely didn't do it justice. But somebody tagged me the other day on X saying, and we are not at that point in the UK where enough people are being actually harmed by the shit that's going on that they will act. We are not there yet. It has to get so much worse. So much worse. Like, until people are directly threatened, because they're brainwashed, right? So they need something that's more scary than all the shit that's going on in the mind. So the only way you overcome fear is you stare down and you go through the thing that scares you, right? There's like somebody was sharing something about probiotics have cured anxiety, and I was like, probiotics don't rewire your mind. Right, they might make you feel better. They may help, you know, trigger serotonin release, like all of those things, which are great, which are nervous system regulation. But if you were diagnosed with chronic anxiety and you didn't have trauma, then you shouldn't have been diagnosed with chronic anxiety anyway. If you resolve chronic anxiety, which is trauma-based, taking probiotics, I would say that you didn't have chronic anxiety anyway, right? So it's your mind is wired to tuned into fear. Like, that's it. Like, just fear-based. The only way you can overcome the fear you have is undo the wiring, and you can have temporary relief from the fear you're experiencing by something more terrifying coming in the way and overriding that that fear, right? But then once that immediate threat's away, the other shit will come back. So in that situation where the lefty was then faced with the very real fear that he would not have his phone, that he would not be able to speak to his friends, that he would not, like, his actual reality was being threatened, that's when he switched. Right? And the minute he walks away, he will probably completely forget that happened, and he will just disregard it, and he will go back to being the retard, right? Because he didn't unwire the brainwashing. So I don't know how, when it comes to Venezuelans not being allowed their own freedom versus Greenland versus all of these, like, how do we get the left to see the absurdity of ranking humans in order of their right to self-determination? Because all humans, good or bad, regardless of belief, have the same rights, right? Freedom to choose to do what they want with who they want, right? Not with who, with themselves, right? I have the free will to choose whatever the fuck that I want. So do you, right? And that is the fundamental rule across everybody. Do we then layer in morality and ethics? 100%. You come to England and you come to the United Kingdom, these are Christian nations, right? They are founded on Christian principles, not Judo Christian principles, Christian principles, because at the time of England specifically being created as a nation from the other little kingdoms that were, it was Christian. Then we were Catholic and we separated from the Pope under Henry VIII. It's still Christian. So if you come from a non-Christian country, you better decide to accept and be on board with the Christian principles, otherwise don't come, right? That's an expectation. That's fine. This is the morality and ethics of this country. If you want other moralities and ethics, go to another country, right? You've got freedom of choice. But everybody deserves the opportunity in their own country. And if you don't like it in your own country, you fucking change it. And right now, the Kurds have been so abused by the West. It is utterly disgusting. And I remember watching, I'm going to call him Grant Mitchell because I just don't know his name. He's like Phil and Grant, right? Who is it? Oh my gosh. Anybody in the UK will know what I mean when I say Grant Mitchell. Outside of the UK, you probably know him by his real name. Bald guy, journalist, kind of, actor, kind of. I wouldn't say he's the best actor in the world. Who did go to like war zones and stuff like that. He did some good documentary stuff. So I remember watching a documentary with him. Must have been 2014, 2015. And he was fighting over, kind of involved in the thick of what was going on, talking to the Kurds who were fighting ISIS. And I couldn't understand, like, it was the first time I'd ever kind of really tried to understand what was going on abroad, like geopolitically. And I could not understand why we were aligning with Turkey, who are funding ISIS and Iran and jihadis, but aligning militarily with the Kurds to actually kill ISIS jihadis. Like it's the weirdest fucking thing that still doesn't make any, like, it just doesn't make any sense at all. And so the West has used the Kurds to push back ISIS, and actually there was some places that they'd pushed back completely. You know, they got rid of the Taliban in areas, and we spoke about this, I mean, maybe years ago we spoke about this, how they had like elections, and they had there was one specific place in Afghanistan where they had all the different factions were on the councils, you know, so the Kurds did huge things, and we still said, no, you don't get your own land. No, not even this land that you're in, that you're populating, you're still not going to be allowed it, right? Just no. So, but obviously the reason, you know, because it comes down to oil, Iranian oil goes through Turkey. So you have to placate Turkey if you need oil. And we have Iran. We helped them, right, get the oil out of the ground. so it's we funded the fucking pipelines, the initial ones, right? So we have a vested financial interest in funding the terrorists while at the same time killing them and allowing the terrorists to kill the Kurds, right? The sheer absurdity, I mean, talking about the absurdity of the fucking lefties, of what's going on with the UK government and the USA government and the way that they've treated the Kurds is just pure appalling. And at the moment everybody's talking about Iran and nobody's really talking about Syria and the Kurds, and this got, I say nobody, they kind of cover it, right? They cover it like, oh, and this is happening, and then that's it. Because of everything that's going on in Iran and everybody being distracted, I would hazard a guess that's what emboldened the Syrian regime to do it, because nobody's paying attention. And politically, nobody pays attention to the Kurds anyway, because they're funding, and we just legitimize the regime, right? So people won't, I say they won't U-turn. Fucking, we got flip-flopping MPs on all of the like, you know, the inheritance tax for the farmers, for the, like, so they flip-flop left, right and center, but they have got this hard line that the Kurds are sacrificable. And this is like 12 years since I found this out, and nothing's ever changed at all. And obviously what we did is, under when Biden had the auto ban, is re-emboldened ISIS and the jihadis. Was only ever going to get worse for the Kurds. So by the 10th and 11th, Kurdish fighters were evacuated from Aleppo, with over 400 of the Syrian Democratic Forces members busted out, and 300 Kurds were detained by Syrian forces. So they did a ceasefire, but it was violated. So there's been even more strikes. It has been growing since December 2024. So it was inevitable. And it became more inevitable when we legitimized the Al-Qaeda jihadi as a legitimate president. So it's fucking full-on Islamic terrorist regime in Syria right now. And there's lots of Christians in Syria, so they will all get persecuted as well. You know, all the Christian fundamentalists in the USA who aren't talking about Syria. I also found out that ISIS and the Taliban have been sliding into the DMs of American travel-based influencers, funding them to go over to Afghanistan, men and women, funding them on their trips so that they can do propaganda videos for the Taliban as tourist promotion. Sarah Adams, American citizen journalist, I think. I'm not sure of her kind of background. I only kind of came across her maybe like earlier this week. Has done a like 30-minute kind of podcast episode on it. Like, I was horrified. Like, at what point are you so focused on the money that literal terrorist organization slides into your DM and say, we'll pay you a few grand and fly you to Afghanistan if you do us a little video? I mean, you'd be like, no. I genuinely can't even. They haven't even pretended. Like, it's not like they've not been like Sacha Baron Cohen spoofed, right? It's not like a pretend. The images and the videos, the influencers, the retards on camera are holding like Taliban weapons, and they're saying this, like, the one guy is holding a weapon and he's in the water and he's saying like, this is like the Taliban, the sea edition. So they know, and they're saying, I've got my Taliban looker after us with me. So it's not like they're ignorant. It's not, they didn't just think they won this free package holiday and you have to kind of create a promotion video and then you get some spending money. They haven't hoodwinked these individuals. These individuals legit know that they are being paid by the Taliban and ISIS to go and do propaganda videos about why people should come to Afghanistan. Like, it is just mind-boggling. Even if MI5 or MI6 slipped into my DMs and they said to me, like, we've been watching your shows, we're the good side of the things, could you say XYZ? I would say fuck you. Because I don't believe, I wouldn't believe, I just wouldn't believe you. I wouldn't believe you. Like, and they aren't like the Taliban. They've got some legitimacy. I do believe there are good people in the intelligence services. I do. I wouldn't believe, well, one, I'd be like, yeah, okay. Because like the whole rule is, if you're like a member of MI5, you don't tell people you're a member of MI5, right? Or MI6, right? There's supposed to be like secret. It's not the same as like, in America, you just seem to fucking like rock up to somebody on the first day, yeah, I'm in the CIA, right? But that's not how it kind of works in the UK. Like, if somebody rocks up to you and say, yeah, I'm in MI5, you're like, yeah, what drugs are you on, mate? So first off, I would be like, no, this is obviously fake. And then I would be like, but I'm not going to be a unwitting spreader of bullshit. So no. And I've had things sent to me and I've been and like looked and checked, and stuff I've reported, stuff I haven't. And they've nobody's ever said to me like, I'm fucking MI5, MI6, but people have sent stuff and been like, have you seen this? Like, I can't talk about this, but maybe you can, right? But again, I'm going to do my I've got to do my due diligence. I'm going to try and see if I can, like, and I'll do a little bit of digging on you. Like, who are you? What are you saying online? Like, are you going, reparations now? And then you're trying to tell me that you're like, I'm on your side. Yeah, I just like, I don't know. So basically the MSM with regards to the Syrians, they're calling it clashes. People are being murdered, right? So the Iranian protesters are being massacred. The Kurds are being massacred. Like, they change the wording depending on who is talking about. And the Kurds have been like undergoing a political and legitimate like ethnic cleansing, genocide for a while that nobody talks about, and there's loads of stuff that nobody talks about, right? But I wanted to just kind of mention Syria, and I do apologize because I probably should have done them next because I want to talk about Layla. So she kind of follows on straight away from reform, but it's just how it pops into my head. So my apologies. So we're going to swing back around to election based stuff. So we're going to talk about Layla Cunningham. So wolf, fox, or patriot. So I've been watching her from the sidelines for maybe 3 or 4 months. And the first thing that struck me was her very real presence on mainstream media, right? Which I always think is a bit interesting in the first place. Because anybody who is a real threat, okay, so real threat, i.e., if you're on the BBC, you get an opportunity to speak to the people who are perhaps not quite as awake as the people who've cancelled the TV license, right? While we don't give mainstream media any kind of legitimacy, vast swathes of the population do. So people who are rocking up on mainstream media and haven't been banned and haven't been censored and all of those things, especially when they're relatively new to the scene. So she's not an MP. She was just a Conservative councillor, which is that's not... it's not big in the grand scheme of things, right? So I was a parish councillor, and the only reason I was on Channel 4 News was because I was whistleblowing about the election expenses scandal. And the only reason I was in the mainstream media was because I was whistleblowing on the bullying and harassment that goes into the Conservative Party. That's different. She's not a whistleblower. She is just a member of the council who was a member of the Conservative Council who defected to reform, right? And she was one of the earlier ones, but still not a MSN based reason to have somebody online. So I've kind of had like one eye on what's going on, but not really paying attention. And then I watched her Andrew Gold podcast. I think a couple of people had re-Instagrammed stuff and retweeted stuff, and so I kind of like seen some of the stuff she said. And I was like, okay, well, she sounds like she's talking about laws similar to, I don't think I've ever heard her talk about the Borders Act in the same way that I did, but I haven't watched lots of her stuff, so I'm not saying she hasn't. But she was talking about laws and laws that we had, that laws that we could use, and I was like, okay, well, at least she's coming back with facts. My facts don't. And there was an exchange between her and a Labour MP, I believe, who was saying the only reason we have freedom and rights is because of the European Court of Human Rights, which is the most retarded thing in the world, because we have had rights in the United Kingdom since like day dot. We literally exported freedom and the kind of democratic principles as they are now, right? So it started in Greece, but it's the we fucking overtook talk about colonization. Europe came a long time after the British Empire. The British Empire took democracy to all of these other countries, right? Took the West to all of this teeny tiny little island. Did that. We did that. And we did do some atrocious things. I'm not saying we didn't, but we also did some really good fucking things. So all of those countries that are demanding reparations, you wouldn't have the right to do that if we hadn't have come and fucking given you freedom of speech and democracy in the first place. So put that in your fucking pipe and smoke it. So I don't know how I don't think I'd have been able to respond if somebody had said that to me, because I think my jaw would have been on the floor. I just been so fucking confused how this person legitimately thinks the only reason we have human rights in the United Kingdom is because of the European Union, the European Convention on Human Rights even. Like, and these are the people in power. Like, these are the people who hold the purse strings, who decide what you and I get to do on a daily basis, which is lawful, which is not lawful, right? This is where it matters. And when people say don't do politics, like, you really fucking need to start. It would be my argument. You need to start, love, because this is just dangerous. Like, any Tom, Dick, and Harry can fucking, and I say any Tom, Dick, and Harry, you have to be recruited, right? Okay, so I've been kind of watching her for a little bit. She seemed like she was talking sense. And then I watched Andrew Gold's podcast, and there was a few things in there that really kind of concerned me and made me think, okay, she's been propped up for something. Like, this is not organic. And I was already thinking it's not organic. It doesn't make much sense. But some of the conversations in Andrew Gold's podcast, I was like, yeah, there's no way she has got this big, this fast, and denies knowing something about one of the things I'm going to mention, and to not have talking points. So, where did she come from? She's Egyptian. She's not British. She's Egyptian. Her parents are Egyptian. They moved to England. She was born here. She's got a British she's got a British passport. But she's Egyptian. Just because you're born in a country doesn't make you from that country. If I go to India and give birth, my children aren't Indian. If me and Matt go, right? If me and Matt go to India, give birth, my children aren't Indian. They're still like mongrel, right? English Irish. Because I'm English Irish. Matt's English. So the children have got to be like, it's DNA. Like, we talk about ethnicity. Like, everybody's got an ethnicity except when you come to England and the United Kingdom, and then everybody's English and everybody's fucking British. Like, British relates to, and this is the argument that people are not making, right? Britain relates to the political union and country of the ethnicities that are Welsh, English, and Scottish. So you can have British citizenship, but it doesn't make you British, right? There's two complete different distinctions that is acknowledged everywhere else except the United Kingdom. And again, for the fucking ethno-nationalists in the back who are retarded and think Northern Ireland is part of Britain, you need to at least do some you don't even need to dig. You don't even need to buy the book, right? You don't even need to buy the Constitution. You don't even need to find out which laws join us. But I mean, if you want to, like the Act of the Union, all the way back to the 1700s, the 1800s, and we've done extra ones, right? You don't need this. You literally just go to an AI and be like, what is Great Britain, right? The United Kingdom is literally, the UK is short for the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Like, it literally in the title tells you Great Britain, which is British, is not Northern Ireland. Great Britain is England, Scotland, and Wales, which means it pertains to the nationalities of English, Scottish, and Welsh. Again, just because you're born here. Now, she says she aligns with British values. That's fine. Cool. Like I don't argue with that. That's great. It still doesn't make you British. Makes you Egyptian because it's genetic. Your ethnicity and your nationality. They say it's a nationality, but British isn't. It's not fair. I'm just gonna fucking say, just like, there we go. Put my left ear hat on. It's just not fair. I'm offended. I'm offended by non-Scottish English, and I mean, that's why I wouldn't claim to be British. I mean, I'm quite a lot English. I'm a mongrel, right? English Irish mongrel mix. But she's not like third, fourth, fifth generation. Like, I get, right? So Andrew Gold's family's been here for quite a while. I understand that, right? She's not like fourth generation. Like, her parents moved here. Like, she's the first generation that was born here. Like, that's she's by birth. I mean, she's got a more legitimate claim than the fucking terrorist, who didn't. They're not even citizens. The mum was just fucking here on a student visa. So, but still, like, she's a British national. British citizen. She's a citizen, right? Fine. Anyway, so they came over because they're quite conservative, and it was under the whole Marxist regime. So the same regime that made the cooking terrorist the terrorist is the one that her family escaped from, right? And prior to all of that, remember, so the mum's, her parents' would have been like potentially knocking around, or the parents' would be knocking around when it was on a kind of under British rule. So when they'd been colonized, when they had introduced into the West. So if you go, like, if you think about how we're feeling going from our West to fucking socialism in the space of 18 months, imagine that with like absolute death, destruction, we're seeing land grabs. So it was seeing all of this stuff, and they went, fuck this shit. We're off. Don't blame them. So they came here. That's cool. So because they had Western ideals, very easy for them to integrate. The people who come from Egypt today do not have the same ideology. People who come from the Middle East today, Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, do not have the same Western ideologies as those who kind of came in the 50s and 60s, right? Because CIA, MI6 fucked shit up. So we're dealing with the ramifications of the shit that we did to block Russia because of we wanted to keep more money. So there's some fucking going on here. Now, I was under the impression that by the conversations she has, she's strong on law and order. So she is now the reform candidate. This is why, like, everybody's talking about her today. So she's now the reform candidate challenging Sadiq Khan for London's mayoralship. So first up, she said, she was a prosecutor as part of the CPS until she resigned in June 2025, because she kind of breached the impartiality rules and kind of spoke out against some of the shit that was going on. And so then there was like a mutual understanding, right? You're supposed to be politically neutral, which is interesting because lots of others aren't politically neutral, and they don't get, they don't retire. They don't resign. So she was obviously pushed out because she's of the wrong political ideology. But she's been around, she's been telling people, she describes herself as a senior prosecutor who handles serious cases involving organized crime and terrorism, emphasizing this in interviews and campaign materials to underscore her tough on crime credentials, right? So she's a Muslim. She's not ex-Muslim. She says she's a Muslim. And if you're looking at a tattoo thing, she's explained that. Like, she's explained it, how like her previous husband cheated on her. They went on holiday, they got matching tattoos, and she's since covered it up. And on Andrew Gold's podcast, she says she's Muslim, but she sees it more spiritually. It's nice to know there's somebody up there, but she's not a political Islamist. She says that she's not an ideological Islamist. Now, we do know about Taqiyya. We can't automatically say all Muslims are bad and doing like womb jihad and all of that. So we can't, if that's how we're looking at everybody anybody who is a Muslim, then we've already lost, right? What we can do is we can push back against the facts that she is disseminating, which are provably false. So she says she's a senior prosecutor. Right? There's no verifiable evidence from court records, news reports, or professional profiles linking her to prosecuting terrorism or organized crime. Now, it doesn't mean that she definitely didn't, but it's just not there. What the records actually say, she was in magistrate's court, so not Crown, right? And she was a criminal prosecutor, so it's not to say that that's a lie, but she was in magistrate's court, so this is where like the threshold is like a lot less. So she wasn't dealing with any indictable offenses, and so indictable offenses is like rape, murder, terrorism, kidnap, treason, anything where you don't need a warrant to just fucking like arrest somebody, jump into the house, do any of that stuff. So we can arrest under pace. Citizens can arrest under pace for indictable offences. You do need like reasonable suspicion. You can't just wander around arrest. We've kind of been through these conversations multiple times, but that's the difference. So indictable offences are completely different. So she does non-indictable offences, which are magistrates court, which specifically for her, public disorder, security breaches, and criminal damage to property. She also says that she prosecuted the guy who rammed the Buckingham Palace at gates, but there's no record of her being involved in that. Right, so we got some kind of like put up or shut up. She's also had 3 entrepreneurial businesses, which she's kind of started as a way. So she was already a counsellor, so she was raising her profile. She was attempting to raise her profile. So she started 3 businesses, all of which have been struck off by Companies House for failing to file documents, which is a criminal offence, though there was no prosecution. So she said it was just administrative errors and denies wrongdoing. I mean, you can fuck up once, right? My first business ended up going bankrupt because I took loads of loans to start it. Lots of fuckery in Telford and Wrekin Council, and all of my little like contracts got pulled, and I couldn't pay my bills, right? So the second time I launched my business, I didn't get no fucking loans. I bootstrapped the entire way through. Like, I learned from my mistakes, and I never made the same one. So this is what concerns me. Somebody being in charge of London budget, so there's no PPC. It's like she's in charge of the crime, in charge of the trains, in charge of like the entire capital. And this is not me saying Sadiq Khan deserves to be there. He fucking doesn't. It's not me saying bumbling Boris ever deserved to be there. He fucking didn't. But somebody who's in charge of our capital, who's telling lies, elevating their status, right? Saying, you know, the reason why I should be in this position is because I'm tough on crime. Like, I've been up against terrorists. So, like, because that would excite the populace. And you'd be thinking, look, here's a Muslim who is actually not Shabina Mahmood fake shitting, but actually she's been in the trenches, not supporting these people, but taking them down. But that hasn't happened. This is not what happened. She's also had 3 businesses like fail to submit information so that the business is being struck off. Like, that doesn't bode well for any kind of like procedure and policies and legislation, and like all of like I don't trust somebody. Like, fair enough, if you start a business and it goes tits up, like loads of like multimillionaires have had a couple of businesses, but they've never repeated the mistake. That's what's worrying, because if she's done the exact same thing 3 times, then she hasn't learned. And that's like administration stuff. Huge part of being a politician is like administration stuff. Do I trust her to be in charge of the police when she couldn't run her own, like, self, like, just herself? I don't know how big these companies were, but I don't think they were big companies. If you can't manage yourself, you can't manage the populace. So she also I was like, okay, well, pre-defection, right? She hasn't done any kind of major standalone achievement. So she didn't like table any motions. No, she was a junior councillor in a minority opposition group. But she wanted to be the MP for Rotherham in 2024. But she changed her mind and then went for the London Assembly in 2024 instead. She's been flaky and taking and putting herself forward for places she's going to get, right? No, she probably wouldn't have done very well in Rotherham being a Muslim, right? So she's recognized that she's got a better chance of winning if she uses her Muslimness, right? So where was she going to have the best opportunity? So this is power. This is power. This is what I see. I see power and political maneuvering in order to get ahead. And that doesn't align with somebody who cares about the people at all. So I also asked, I'm going to come back to that stuff, whether she was aligned with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, because this is where we need to kind of sniff out the baddies. I mean, she's called net zero lunacy. She has said that she doesn't agree with net zero. Sorry, non-stop immigration. But she's saying all the right things and not necessarily doing the things that she should be doing. Now, before she defected to Reform, the Conservatives that she was working alongside had already got fed up of her. She was being flaky. She was doing the bare minimum. She wasn't really like, she literally would turn up to the council meeting and just sit there. Right. So she did hold some surgeries, supposed to pretend like that's what Grok's saying. She did hold some surgeries, but she wasn't proactive. So she's been in a position of power already and not done anything with it. While I was a parish councillor, there was me, there was two of us. I think how many? There was 11. Was there 11 seats or 14 seats? 11 seats, I think. Yeah, 11 seats, 9 Labour, me and another Conservative. And I brought things to the table because I lived in this parish. I brought, I contested planning. I went and spoke to the populace. I, brought things. I blocked things that weren't in our, they might have been aligned with Telford and Reed King, but they weren't aligned with Oaken Gates, what Oaken Gates wanted. So even in my like relatively short tenure, maybe I need to go get the fucking, I probably don't have the minutes. Then maybe they have to keep them, don't they? So I'm all over these minutes of the meetings, and 99% of the time what I'm trying to push is never going to go because it goes against what Labour want. But I still did it, right? There is no record of her actually doing anything other than just rocking up. So the fact that she was being pushed prior to this meant that she was specifically, she defected because she saw an opportunity, and Reform saw the opportunity, and she was always being groomed for this post. Now, Muslim men, which is what they're, this is what he's been like. Well, she's a Muslim. She's got a better chance of, doing well because of the electorate. Muslim men won't vote for a Muslim woman. They definitely won't vote for a Muslim woman. The ones in London, like these are the extremists. They're definitely not going to vote for one who isn't wearing a hijab. So that is just complete and utter bullshit. That just completely destroys the narrative of why, right? So what I asked, because I don't know much about reform because I just don't give a shit. I asked, like, what are the actual challenges in London? Where does it align? And also, who would perhaps be a better candidate than her, right? So London's key challenges: housing, affordability, crime, transport, ULEZ, cost of living and integration, and diversity. It actually has 36% white British and only 15% Muslim. It does have 50% born abroad. But actually, that doesn't place her at the top of the queue because she's Muslim. Because it's 36% white British. So if you are reform and white British people are fucking fed up, there's a rise of ethno-nationalism, there's a rise of, there's the rise, the rising of the English flag, people like England, Scotland and Wales, like going back to fucking tribal infighting. If you want to win London, you put a white English boy in, and you put a young boy. That's what you put. You put the anti-establishment, non-political background lad who's fucking worked his ass off, like white van. If you can get a white van man that late 30s, early 40s, maybe late 20s, early 30s, construction, flooring, plumbing, he's got his own business, maybe employs a few people, like that's who'd get elected in London. Because even though this 50% born abroad, the people who are very quite often more anti or the illegal immigration and the fucking destruction of London are the immigrants who came here legitimately. So seeing a young, successful, so remember she's had 3 failed businesses and she's actually not doing very well as a councillor. You throw in a successful white van man who's putting money into the economy, who's doing, shows that they can build something, they're entrepreneurial, like put in, like London used to be like the finance capital, right? So you want to put that spirit back into London. She's not the first choice. So we do have Harrison Ullman Varty. Now he's only very young, but he does have a non-traditional background. He defected from the Conservatives. He decided to join the Conservatives when he was 14. He got involved, kind of like leafleting from grassroots decision, right? Probably got hoodwinked like I did. No, I didn't. I told you I joined the Conservatives because I wanted them in power because I wanted business loans, right? So maybe I would have been better if Labour had been in power and I wouldn't have, my first business wouldn't have gone tits up. So this guy, he's anti-elite. So the other thing I found out, so they do have over 500 councillors, but there's only a tiny amount in London, right? So they are actually really limited. So they're limited with who they can get in London. So they're kind of trying to pick the best of the bad bunch. And I don't think they picked the best. I think she has been groomed specifically because they're creating a narrative. which will be to counter and get in power and then not do what they want to do. And actually, they are self-sabotaging again, right? So remember, Reform was pulling people from both left and right, and just before the election, they put Nigel Farage in, and all the lefties refused to vote for the general election, right? So they self-sabotaged. They have Tyson there, right? Who's besties with the Camerons, right? They self-sabotage. Now we're seeing them do it again, and they've just fucking pulled that fucking vaccine minister psychopath in. Like they do not give a shit who, like, they are not designed to be in power, and if they are in power, they will just carry on the fucking agenda. Like, how do people not see this? So they also have Siobhan Monaghan, who is a Broxbourne, Chestnut South and Theobalds. So they defected from the Conservatives February 2025 after 49 years, served since 2018, including as a cabinet member, now Reform's rep on the Local Government Association's Government Working Group. She's a HR professional, a museum trustee, 20 plus years in the area. So she's got really strong governance and organizational skills for tackling London's bureaucratic challenges, so inefficiencies, transport planning. She's got long party loyalty. She would appeal to moderate conservatives defecting to Reform, and also the probably Labour lot defecting. A focus on scrutiny aligns with anti-corruption pushes, but she's not been given the profile that Orman Vati or Layla has been given. So she's like, she's been in the trenches and working hard to become a cabinet member. She would have been doing stuff, right? So remember, like, Layla was fucking flaky, and they were wanting to get rid of her, and she chose to go. Mark Shooter, Barnet and Hendon. He defected February 2025, long-time resident, 40 years in Hendon, served 15 years as a Tory councillor, an investment manager, former actuary with bursaries. So he's in a diverse borough. So Barnet is 30+% ethnic minorities, Jewish community ties, via Moean background. He's chaired committees, could help with crime or transport reforms, but he was labelled as a rogue landlord for a 33-person HMO. So we've got undermined credibility, right? So if I was Reform, I wouldn't have taken. I wouldn't like, no, mate. We are telling people we're rooting out corruption. You've been like corrupt. You have to stand down. Trigger a by-election, but you're not standing for Reform. Giles Hall, defective February 2025, served since 2018 as Tory. Solid local experience as a commuter, familiar with transport links, could address outer London challenges like congestion. Again, low profile, no standout policies. He's not dynamic. Alex Anderson, Thurrock, Stamford East and Corringham Town, defected September 2024, elected 2018 as a Tory, experience in diverse working class areas. So Thurrock is high immigration, aligned with Reform's anti-immigration focus, relevant for London's integration issues, but it's outside of Greater London. And he, again, has not been given any opportunity to have any high profile. Alan Benson and Russell Cherry, elected May 25, so there's two in Thurrock. Benson's a disability activist focused on transport access, strong for London's accessibility challenges, and Cherry's a retired ex or UKIP independent, but faces allegations of sharing far-right Islamophobic content, which could torpedo viability in multicultural London. Right, so that tells you they are vying for the multicultural vote, but the Muslim vote's only 15%, and the Muslim vote ain't going to vote for her anyway. 34% are British nationals, so the people who would work better would be 100% that woman. I think the young lad would do really well, but he's just a bit too green. A white van man, that's who they needed. That's who they need in there. But they don't have any. Yeah, I think that if they'd have done Siobhan Monahan. Sorry, Siobhan Monahan. She's a woman. There you go. You want like the woman vote. But Grok is saying that, to be fair, Alman Varty is media savvy because of the housing focus. He's going through the shit that he's got a really young demographic in, but they're not always the ones who vote, right? So just because the demographics are XYZ, they're not always the ones who vote. So do I think she is, what did I put her as at the beginning? Introduced her as a wolf, a fox, or a patriot. I don't think she's any of them. I think she's an opportunist. I think Layla Cunningham's out for Layla Cunningham. And I think Reform have purposely put her in because she won't win. And some people are kind of going, well, what about Ant Middleton? Well, he was never like an official Reform person. He said he was going to stand as an independent. He has got a conviction, so he may not actually be able to stand anyway, right? So that was he was never a thing. But they had other people, but it does look like they didn't really have huge amounts of opportunity. But if I wanted to win in Reform, I would have gone either with the young person, because there's a council, right? There's a council, and also, or the lady, the ex cabinet member. She's got the best political portfolio. So that's kind of what you want. You definitely wouldn't go with the person who has got 3 failed businesses for clerical errors on probably the exact same thing, and keeps telling people she's prosecuted terrorism and what was the other one? Organized crime, when you haven't. But I think that's just fucking dodgy. So, some random little updates before we get on to finishing up the show. So if you missed it, Bayer has sued Pfizer for patent infringement of its 1989 crop-based mRNA technology, which they filed on the 6th of January. And they've actually demanded jury trials. So this isn't new. They're not the only one. Pfizer sued Moderna. Moderna sued Merck. Merck sued fucking Jane. They've all been suing each other because of how quickly they came to market, and they literally just like stole each other's IP. But they all just kind of like settle and share the money. Bayer is actually demanding jury trials. So if it doesn't settle, then it's an opportunity to get it in court that everybody knew it was fucking dangerous, right? Because that's the oldest patent. And the mRNA technology is crop-based GMO. That's what it's for, right? With altering the genetic profile of crops. So if that's actually in court, so if you settle out of court, it never goes to court, it's never on record, and you can just do the shit again. If it's a jury trial in court, a criminal fucking well, I suppose patent infringement isn't criminal, but it's in court, right? Like, so actual case proceeding and case law, it's a huge win for the populace. I mean, obviously that's not going to be fast. It's not going to be quick. So it's really interesting that Bayer are doing this. So you've got to ask why. But I literally only saw it yesterday, the day before, so I haven't looked into it. If you missed it, Trump pulled out of 66 international organizations. So again, he's doing anti-cabal things, despite the influencers telling you he's propping up the cabal. So he's pulled out of maybe 500 million to 2 to 3 billion a year. That's huge, especially as the cabal's got no fucking money. right? The baddies are being cut off, like, from money from Venezuela, from Iran, from Iraq, from China, from Russia. Like, they are being pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed back. So the organizations they've pulled out of, there is an official fact sheet. So I'm just going to read a little bit from it. Oh, let me do the sherry, so you know that I'm not making this shit up. I mean, you might still think I'm making shit up, but who knows? Who cares? Okay. Think what you want. You have free will to do so. Okay, so memorandum orders all executive departments and agencies to cease participating and funding 35 non-UN organizations and 31 UN entities that operate contrary to US national interest, security, economic prosperity or sovereignty. This follows a review ordered earlier this year of all international intergovernmental organizations, conventions, and treaties that the US is a member or party or that the US funds or supports. These withdrawals will end American taxpayer funding and involvement in entities that advance globalist agendas over US priorities, or that address important issues inefficiently or ineffectively, such that US taxpayer dollars are best allocated in other ways to support the relevant missions. Restoring American sovereignty. So President Trump is ending US participation in international organizations that undermine America's independence and waste taxpayer dollars on ineffective or hostile agendas. Many of these bodies promote radical climate policies, global governance, and ideological programs that conflict with US sovereignty and economic strength. So he's literally telling everybody he's pulling out of the Davos agenda, the UN Sustainable Development Goals. That is the exact same thing every other fucking country is working towards. So I do not know how after this people are still suggesting January the 7th. So over a week ago, almost, people are still suggesting he's fucking a globalist. Like, he's literally fucking them up left, right, and center. American taxpayers have spent billions on these organizations, little return, while they often criticize US policies, advance agendas contrary to our values, or waste taxpayer dollars by purporting to address important issues but not achieving any real results. By exiting these entities, President Trump is saving taxpayer money and refocusing resources on America First policies. Putting America first on the global stage, President Trump has consistently fought to protect US sovereignty and ensure international engagements serve American interests. Immediately upon returning to office, President Trump initiated the withdrawal of the United States from the World Health Organization and the Paris Climate Agreement. On day one of his administration, President Trump also signed a presidential memorandum to notify the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development that its global tax deal has no force or effect in the US, and directed an investigation into whether foreign countries have tax rules in place that are extraterritorial or disproportionately affect American companies. Just weeks later, President Trump signed an executive order withdrawing the United States from the UN Human Rights Council, the UNCHR, and prohibiting any future funding for the UN Relief and Works Agency for the Near East, the UNRWA. Now, UNRWA has been fucking committing terrorist atrocities. I'm pretty sure it's been designated as a terrorist organization in the United Kingdom, and yet we're still fucking funding them. So he's prioritized American interests by redirecting focus and resources towards domestic priorities such as infrastructure, military readiness, and border security, and acting swiftly to protect American companies from foreign interference. He's working for the people. It doesn't mean that people can't, like, when he's gone, people can't go back in, but he's pulled out, right? In Iran, he said that he may go in. He said he'll retaliate. Also, in case you missed it, the mullahs have been seen escaping to Moscow. BBC are talking about it. I can't remember if I said this before. They weren't, but after Trump released his statement, they did start talking about it. They have a 30 to 80% internet blackout in effect over in Iran. The IRG pulled in people from Afghanistan and Syria, ISIS groups, to kind of round up the protesters. They are slaughtering them. They've got mass executions planned for Wednesday, more executions. There's the Marxist Islamic organization, which is operating out of Canada, who's now trying to overthrow the protesters, saying we don't want the Shah. So they are saying that they are pushing the fact that it is a color revolution, and not the fact that so the original ground operation is being infiltrated. There's also Mossad over there in the mix. There will be MI6, there will be MI5. All of those things are knocking around over there. If you haven't seen, so moving on from Iran quickly, the US Department of Labor, like they are literally posting patriotic shit. They have done Trust the Plan. They have done The Storm's Coming. They've done Hold the Line Patriots. They did Patriots Are in Control. Like, they've gone full fucking conspiracy theorist. Like, it's insane. And all of that changed. All of that changed this year. So if you want a little bit of juice, definitely go and watch, like follow you at USDOL on Twitter. There is a petition, UK-based petition. What was this one? Why have I made a note of this? I think I posted it in Telegram. Well, yeah, everybody else's gets fucking accepted. This is to cancel the puberty blockers trial. Oh, yes, it's some fucking funny business about this. They are still doing so James Esses is set up his own kind of like therapy network. He's a psych. I think he's I can't remember whether he's a psychologist, psychiatrist. Just a therapist. That was not me being derogatory, by the way. I know that came out really bad. But I meant not psychologist. He's a therapist. He's created his own therapy thing. So he's quite active. I followed him for quite a while. He's quite good. But so basically his petition to cancel the puberty blockers trial is going to be reviewed by the government. I mean, it's gone over, I'm pretty sure it's gone over 100,000. Is it? Yeah. So Parliament are going to debate it in a day. Right, it started 2 months after another petition, the petition with regards to at the moment, or they've just debated the one about cancelling the election. This is another one, like, because we had 3 already. So I need to look into kind of what bullshit they kind of came up with. But there's another petition which is talking about stopping the government having the authority to block local elections, which started 2 months before, still has another month before Parliament are going to give it a date. So it got to 100,000 signatures ages ago. So they cherry pick which ones they're going to do and when. Like, I was just like, wait a minute, how is this? This is like new, and it is fucking, it's only like 4 days old, and it's going to be debated faster than one that's been up for like 3 months. Dodgy. Okay. So, here we go. Finish you off for the last 15 minutes. Okay. What is it we're going to talk about really quickly? Decoding silent language, the unspoken cues that redefine connection. So deconstructing how nonverbal cues from microexpressions to proxemics fundamentally reshape human interaction, revealing universal silent grammar, influencing trust, attraction, and conflict resolution. And this is really important in today's multicultural country, because the West, and we understand each other. Like, I mean, nobody really gets British sarcasm. or humor, right? We've got very, very dry senses of humor. I would say, don't they say like sarcasm is the lowest form of wit? I don't think it fucking is. We have very dry humor. We tend to take the piss out of everybody and anybody, right? There's no holds barred comedy with like if you are in front of us, then you have an opportunity to be like roasted. That's the worst thing to happen with fucking cancel culture is our inability to actually be British and just fucking take the piss out of everybody. So it's different in other cultures, right? So we don't necessarily understand the micro it's not microaggression, but the micro like facial features, the vocal inflections. So like, you know, some cultures, the way that they change the tone of voice tells you whether it's a question or not. Like in English, you know it's a question because somebody goes, how, why, what, right? There's these words that tell you that you're asking a question. I mean, sometimes it's rhetorical, but actually the majority of the time, it's usually a statement. Like you'll make a statement rather than a question, but it's like subtleties of different cultures where things are getting lost in translation 100%. We also have everybody online, right? We have fucking young people, dumb as shit, doing all of their interactions online. All of the fucking influencers with their filters. And I haven't got any filter on at all, which is why my eyebrows look, I think they look really strange. I don't know what happens. I don't know. It's probably the light. I tried to put the light on so I'm not in the dark. But no filter. With strange hair color and all. But so why you know, filters and Botox, they matter because they hide the micro expressions in the face, right? So if you're spending your entire day online and you're doing text-based communication, shit goes wrong all the time, right? I am always texting like something sarcastic and then I'm going up may not come across sarcastic. So the way that you read textual based information is based on the way that you feel, right? So if you feel like shit and somebody throws something at you, you will only read it the way that you feel. So you have to be really careful. So also, if they're learning and their brain is developing, seeing people who are filtered or Botoxed, like they are missing out on understanding the subtleties that definitely follows and goes behind lots of things in the English language. Oops. Oh, shite. Press the wrong button. Okay, so if you've ever felt disconnected, and this is really interesting, like we often know that something's wrong, something's weird, right? Somebody will say something, but actually their body language, their micro expressions, they don't align. And I've done a blog post, by the way, on the whole, like if you look left and you look right, that's not true. It's all bullshit. It's like scientifically proven to be better than chance, just. But you can be having a conversation with somebody and what they're saying, the words they're using just don't match up with everything else that's going on. This is why you can tell whether somebody's being genuine, somebody's being, and it drives me crackers. Like I get an instant irk for somebody saying something. Maybe somebody says, you know, oh, I think no filter, and then you see they're like no wrinkles. You're like, baby, it's supposed to be 40, love. Like either you've never expressed anything, no facial expressions at all whatsoever in your entire life, and you are like a porcelain doll, or you've got the smooth turned up. And I actually genuinely didn't know. All phones have it automatically turned on. Like I didn't even know. I was just like, I haven't got a filter on. And then somebody says, oh yeah, no, your phone probably automatically has it on. And I was like, well, I don't even know where it is to turn it off. Right. So there's an automatic kind of like filler-inner on all phones. So unless you've actively turned it off, your phone has a filter. But you will feel, you'll just get the gut will be like, something's off. This doesn't feel right. And the problem is that if you are in a place of unhelpful mental wellness, is you aren't going to necessarily feel that. You won't feel the disconnect. This is why people follow like all the bad influencers all the time. Like you are so out of alignment that you can't see that you are being hoodwinked, because you are tuned into the words that they're saying, but you aren't tuned into the way that you should be feeling, but based on the way that they're saying it. Maybe the tone of the voice, maybe the fact that, yes, I use my hands a lot. I do. Matt used to try and get me to sit on my hands. I mean, I do sit on them to keep them warm, but Matt was just like, "Oh my god, you're gonna like bash somebody." I'm very expressive, and talk a lot, right? So, and you can tell, right? You can tell the difference between when I'm reading something and when I'm freestyling. There's ums, there's ahs, we go off on a tangent, there's a lot more emotion, and I'm looking at the fucking screen. Now, I could have a teleprompter above. When I'm doing my blog posts, they are scripted, and I'm pretty good because I've written it. It's in my language, in my wording. I can still kind of do the hands are in the right kind of place, but the emotion still is a little bit it's not quite there, because it's not natural, it's not off the cuff. It doesn't feel like you and I are having a conversation. This is you and I having a conversation. And what happens is you will find lots of podcasters, let's do the influencers, right? These are the people we're supposed to be ignoring. Supposed to be ignoring. Is they will be saying all the right words. Maybe they know their subject matter, that they can even say the right words in an offhanded way, right? I literally have a week to figure shit out in some of these things, and I've got like full-time jobs too, right? I'm not doing this full-time. I would like the deep dives we could do like back before, like when my business imploded, when COVID happened and they pulled my business off the internet while I was trying to like rebuild, and I couldn't rebuild because like we were in lockdown. I got lots of opportunity to dig deep, right? So we had that was before AI, right? So I'm grateful for AI because I can now do things at speed, but you can tell the difference when I'm talking about mental health stuff. Like, it's there. I know the information. I've lived it. I've breathed it. I deal with it on a daily basis. It's easy for me to talk about things like the prefrontal cortex or the vagus nerve. All of those things, I know that terminology and the language. So the influencers and the people are following online, you know, if that's their predefined narrative, they are going to be able to have conversation. They are going to be able to talk to you about it, but there will still be that resonance. It's like off key, right? If you've got like a scale, you've got like the piano scale going, or any kind of like musical scale, it's just slightly off key. It doesn't quite fit what you're expecting. And the more unwell you are, the less you're able to recognize those things, the more likely you're going to get pulled into the shitty narratives. And if you're being put in fear, that's going to override your capacity to kind of really tune into these things. Maybe you just can. This is why everybody follows people like fucking Charlie Ward and all those over fucking weird. I literally watched one show with him in, and I was like, this guy's a fucking buffoon, and clearly this is all bullshit. He's still around. Like, he literally was money laundering for the Clintons. Okay, so like, moving money for the Clintons, and he never fucking hid that, like, ever. Like, anybody, like, you. Oh my gosh, I just can't sometimes. Baffling. Baffling. Okay, so nonverbal cues make up over 55% of communication. 55%. So we've got all these things in the way that's blocking the capacity to understand what somebody's actually really saying. 55% of meaning comes from body language versus 7% comes from the specific words. Ouch. Ouches. First impressions are silent. So judgments form in milliseconds based on posture, eye contact, gestures, such as slouch, insecure. I mean, that's bullshit. That's literally what I go into, which is bullshit. The prescriptive model of somebody having their arms folded versus not folded, you know, there's like, oh, it's a barrier. Like, I wasn't barriering, I was just fucking getting cold. So I'm just going to warm myself up a little bit here while we're having this good old conflab. Nothing changed. It's nothing to do with the conversation or the structure. If I'm trying to remember something, you won't see which way my eyes are going because I shut my eyes because my brain's too noisy. And that's not me lying or deceiving you. It's just I have to shut out the 20,000 bits of information coming in so I can focus on the one thing, right? So yes, you do need to understand somebody's baseline before you kind of apply any kind of body language based principle, but it's slightly better than chance with all the body language. So just be careful. It's also like smiling. Obviously you can tell whether somebody's smiling or not, and this is why I'm really bad at taking selfies because I can smile like fine until you put a camera and then it's like I just look like a dick. I don't know how to do it. It's not something, maybe it's something they teach in school now. Like all of these young people, like they look like dicks and all of a sudden they look like perfect. So I'm like, I just look like a dick all the time, I guess. Anyway, so there are 7 universal emotional concepts that we get: happiness, sadness, anger, fear, surprise, disgust, and contempt. So but you will feel it, right? So here's what you need to do. Obviously you need to get well first and then you start to recognize it. So prioritize. Here's how we're going to fix this: at least one face-to-face interaction weekly, and if you can, with people you don't know, right? So get good at spotting the disconnect, right? So go to a coffee shop, sit down, sit on a park bench, you know, chat, get on a bus, go where other people are and strike up a conversation. And I know that's probably going to be like freaking some of you out because you're like, oh my God, I don't know where they've been. Like, just, you know, get over it. I mean, you don't have to like make a beeline for the back of the bus and the fucking knife gang. You can go and sit by the little old lady, but I'd argue little old ladies, they're not always the nicest of people. So just be careful. Like, let's not do stereotypes because the gang at the back might actually be the nicest people in the world. You never know. So journal non-verbal reflections. Okay, so this is handy. So after you've had a convo, if you feel like disconnect, just write it out. Like, ask yourself the questions, right? So what felt weird? What didn't align? Which part of it kind of didn't sound right? Maybe which bit did they maybe make a note of somebody's kind of like behavior shifts, right? So while you can't say looking one way or the other is actually does anything better than chance, but actually if you see somebody consistently doing something and then all of a sudden they're completely different, like pay attention to that. What was going on? Now, if the temperature drops and then they put their arms together, then be like, okay, well, there's a legitimate reason why this is happening. Just tune into the people around you, but get used to listening to lots of different people, watching lots of different people. Become a people watcher. That would be my advice. And then close your eyes, listen to them, and listen to the words, and then open your eyes and see how it lands. The only person you can trust is you. Like, don't trust nobody else. You can't trust anybody else at all. And on that bombshell, Have yourselves an amazing week, because I've got like 9 seconds left before my AI system won't work. Have a wonderful week, and I shall see you next week, hopefully with some good news.